I think the enemy has made a very subtle, perfect storm here, like so many of the others, because on the one hand, you'll talk about pro-life and protecting life, but the interesting thing is, in order to have that happen, it's the religious right in America that are influencing this. So that means that's Christians involved in and affecting political state policy, the very thing that we are on the lookout for in the future. So it's been mixed, whereby you know, pro-life is a very noble thing, but to push for it, it means that church and state have to have some kind of union. And it's interesting, one of the women in the Roe versus Wade case in 1973, who was for pro-life, pro-abortion, she became a Christian. And now she has taken the total opposite position to what she took in the first instance. So what we're seeing now is complicated issues like this, where life is precious, but in order to make that mean anything, the religious section of society has got to influence the state. And so then what that does, that brings in church and state union through the back door. Very subtle.
And Adrian, you know, I love what you just said, because this is the issue, Xenia. The issue is that if we push this whole pro-life agenda as Christians, okay, then what's going to happen is everything in our prophecy is hinged on the fact that they're going to take away our rights. And it has to be done through a religious move. It ain't going to be done through a civil move. And I think what we're seeing in America now is that the right is moving in. They're moving in line with government policy. There have got to be a union. And before you know it, man, what we thought was calm has now become a major, major storm. Go ahead, Shaun.
No, I'm saying that you say it's going to come from a religious move, but the climate bill is really a religious move, but everybody sees it as...
And I agree.
You know what I mean? So the climate bill is going to be something big that most people, even the church is pushing the climate bill and saying we want to get in the climate bill, but they don't realise the hands behind it. And if you go back to about the 1815, you have the Rockefeller Foundation setting up this climate thing.
And you know, you talk about climate, man. I was in a school this week. I ain't gonna say the name of the school. But they're pushing that so hard. And don't get me wrong, I think there are some things we can do to help the situation. But I think what it's doing is ingraining in the minds of children, not necessarily the goodness of it, but so that they can literally buy into the whole organization of keeping this world clean.
I think... Oh, sorry, Adrian.
What is very interesting is how they are slowly, gradually indoctrinating children.
Yeah, that's the point. Ideologies. That's the word.
You know what I find very interesting? Try not to divert. I know a lot of parents now who are struggling to raise their children because the schools are teaching that there's no such thing as male or female.
Right.
But I had a very interesting experience. I realized that the way you raise your child makes a big difference. My friend's son was at school and his teacher said, boys can wear skirts. No, they can't. This is a 5-year-old. Boys can wear skirts. No, they can't. And this 5-year-old was adamant with the teacher, stood his ground, and the teacher didn't know what to do. So though there's a direction the world is going in, we still have to make a stand. You know.
Well, I think just going back on the climate thing, it's interesting. You know, we're talking about church and state and religion. What you have, there's this group called and I don't tend to focus too much on groups, because groups come to the surface and then they pass and then something else comes up. But this group, the Green Sabbath Project, run by a Jewish fellow called Jonathan Skorsh, and what he said was, and I've got it on film footage. He said that the majority of people Christians or religious people who are for climate change bills and changes in this area are Sunday-keeping Christians. And he said this is so important that he, as a Jew, a Sabbath-keeping Jew, would be willing to change his practice to Sunday if it protected the planet. And I thought that was very interesting. And my a neighbour of mine, I came in one day. This was during the COVID, at the early part of COVID, 2020, and I said, "Oh, hi, you cutting the lawn?" And she said, "Oh, yeah," and she said, "Oh, do you know something, Adrian? It's been so wonderful. All this, during the COVID, during the lockdown, all our families coming together, and it's been so wonderful meeting as families. And I think because of the planet and the climate, what we need now to protect the planet, we need a day. We need a day to that we stop driving around. Look, all the water's gone blue and the sky's gone blue and all the fog's gone and everything. We need to have a day, and we need to make it mandatory." And I said, "Oh, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, what day? Tuesday or Wednesday?" No. We need to have it on a Sunday, and we need to make it mandatory. It's a good job I was leaning against my car, otherwise I'd have dropped on the floor. So again, you see, while the state is working, the minds of the people are being changed through whatever issue can begin to move things along in that direction without us being aware of it.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that, because I've heard a very similar comment on shutting down 2 days a week. So that one of the days was Sunday. It was Sunday and Monday they were suggesting, and I just thought that was interesting, because once again Sunday becomes this day void of work, void of shopping, and it becomes the Sabbath to those who are really, and let me say this, I'm saying the Sabbath because that's how a lot of people, and a lot of us Adventists, we need to be careful, because we rest more on a Sunday than we do on a Saturday. Is anybody here in the building? And so
Ray says it's lawful to do certain things on the Sabbath.
the Bible says the priest can go into the temple. Don't stop that in Mark chapter 2. I'm not a priest, but he can go to the temple and he can do the showbread. He can. Yes, he can. All right, good. But he shouldn't have any other meetings. I'm anti-meetings on Sabbath. And I'm also anti-fasting on Sabbath, but that's a whole other debate.
I found it was interesting what Adrian just said earlier. He was talking about the kid who spoke up and wouldn't have his mind changed on the LGBT issue or the gender issue. What I found, it reminded me of something that happened at the beginning of this year or the end of last year. Now, I'm not a J.K. Rowling fan. I don't watch.
We're taking the object lesson.
I don't watch. The Harry Potter films, or not read the books. But
so he says now.
Yeah. It sounds like he's about to make a comment that he's going to show us that he knows the information. Go ahead.
The interesting thing was she came out and made this statement, because now there's this row between the LGBTQI plus community and the feminist movement, and she came out and made this blazing statement, which is, we would think probably quite obvious. In December of last year, she said, "A male is a male and a female is a female." She basically was saying there's no such thing as gender fluidity, and she... Honestly, I said at the beginning how I don't read her books anymore, but I felt for her, because what happened after that,
the backlash.
All those people, producers, directors, actors, who would not have had jobs had it not been for her. They had a reunion in December, and they blocked her, so she couldn't go to that. They ostracized her totally, and I really, as a human, I thought it was so awful what they did to her, and I really felt for her. But it also shows the power of the LGBTQI community. I'll tell you something. Well, I'll just say this. I must say this. I wish it was happening in our day, because I was a bit mischievous at school, and on a Friday the teacher would warn you that you're going to be in trouble on Monday. So I'll tell you, if we had LGBTQI when I was a kid, this is what I'd have done. I'd have been as mischievous as I could on Friday, and the teacher said, "Right, on Monday, see me, come